Hello everyone. My name is Dr. P. Balaraju, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany, SRR Gout Arts and Science College, Karimnagar. Today we are going to discuss about euchromatin and heterochromatin material. Okay, as you know that the chromatin material present in the nucleus of cell, which can spread all over the nucleus of cell during the interphase of the cell. Okay, uh, during the interphase the chromatin material is it is not clear, so that to observe the chromatin material under microscope, okay, usually we can stain the chromatin material for clear view. So usually we can use to stain the chromosomes or chromatin material, chromatin network, stains like acetocaramine, acetoarsine, and pheolgin. We can use these three chromatin or chromosome staining materials. So during the staining, different parts of the chromatin material take different amount of staining. Okay, so depending upon the intensity of the staining of the chromatin material, okay, chromatin staining, we can usually classify the chromatin material into two types. One is heterochromatin, and the second one is euchromatin. Right? Just you are watching on the screen, right? So usually after staining process, some of the regions of the chromatin or chromosome, they they can take heavy dark staining. Some regions of the chromatin take heavy dark stain. So those darkly stained regions or parts of the chromosome are called as heterochromatin region. Okay. For example, centromere can take dark staining, means heavily stained, and telomeres, secondary constriction. So some of other regions. So these regions can take high intensity staining during the staining process. So these regions are called as heterochromatin regions. Okay, so these heterochromatin regions usually highly condensed regions. They are highly condensed regions, and moreover they have inactive DNA. These regions usually contain inactive DNA. Okay, almost all, and uh, in this area, the genes are not actively participate in the uh, transcription or translation. That is why we can say that inactive genes, inactive DNA. Okay, and moreover, in heterochromatin region, highly condensed region or inactive region, which contains highly repetitive small sequences, highly repetitive DNA. So this highly repetitive DNA is also called as satellite DNA. So once again I am repeating you, heterochromatin is nothing but it is a highly condensed region. Okay, so usually which can take a high amount of stain, highly intensity of staining we can observe in these regions, and they are inactive regions. Inactive DNA. They contain inactive DNA, and the DNA in this region is highly repetitive. These regions contain a small segment of DNA portion is highly repeated. So these highly repeated inactive DNAs are called as satellite DNA. Okay, right? So whereas euchromatin, the remaining portion, whatever the region of chromatin or chromosome which can take light intensity or light or a small amount of staining, uh, they can take, those regions are called as euchromatin regions. Usually they are less condensed and they are much active. They can code for different types of proteins. That's why we can say that they are active. Okay, so they are the DNA is in that regions. DNA is very active. It has some important genes. They can produce many number of proteins. Okay, so that is heterochromatin versus euchromatin, and moreover here heterochromatin is again two types. Okay, so heterochromatin is two types. One is constitutive heterochromatin and facultative heterochromatin regions. First one, constitutive heterochromatin regions are nothing but they are permanently highly condensed throughout the cell, throughout the cell cycle, throughout the cell life. Okay, it is permanently highly condensed region, right? So it has inactive DNA, right? It has repeated DNA sequences. It has repeated DNA sequences. That nothing but satellite DNA present in this region. Constitutive heterochromatin is nothing but it is permanently highly condensed inactive region of chromatin, inactive region of DNA. It contains. Okay, so for example, how can we identify, for example, two homologous chromosomes? When we stain two homologous chromosomes, the two homologous chromosomes can take dark staining in the same areas, in the same regions. The two homologous chromosomes can take dark staining, means they are highly condensed areas, highly stained areas at the same regions. Okay, so these homologous chromosomes have equal or same to same uh, darkly stained or highly condensed areas we can observe. So these areas are known as constitutive heterochromatin regions. They are permanently inactive. They are permanently in the state of highly condensed state during the all the stages of cell cycle. Okay, but what about facultative heterochromatin? So here facultative heterochromatin is nothing but it is also highly condensed, right? It is also inactive DNA, but sometimes depending upon the chance, depending upon the what we can say that necessity, sometimes they can loosen up, they become active, they become uncondensed, they can loosen up sometimes, right? So, facultative heterochromatin is nothing but sometimes as per the cell need, okay, they can loosen up, and moreover they become active. They can participate in transcription and they can produce some important protein, right? How can we identify the facultative heterochromatin region of DNA? Same, when we stain the homologous chromosomes, right? One of the homologous chromosome take a dark stain, but another homologous chromosome do not take dark stain in the same region. That means the second homologous chromosome loosen up in that particular area, becomes active. Only one homologous chromosome takes dark stain and other homologous chromosome do not take dark stain. That means in that region the highly condensed region is loosen up and the inactive portion becomes active, right? So at the time this heterochromatin region is known as facultative heterochromatin region. According to the need, according to the necessity of some functions, some cell requirements, sometimes the heterochromatin region becomes active. So that is known as facultative heterochromatin region. The best example, female mammalian X chromosome. Female mammalians X chromosome. Female mammalians, both two X chromosomes are there. They are homologous, but one of the X chromosome is totally inactive, but the other homologous X chromosome is active. So this is the facultative heterochromatin. Okay, so I think it is clear, and moreover I will show you one picture, right? So during the staining process the chromosomes are appear like some darker bands, some light bands. The darker bands are known as heterochromatin and the light stained areas are known as euchromatin regions, right? That is an interface. We can clearly observe, we can clearly view the heterochromatin and heterochromatin and euchromatin regions during the interface of the chromatin when we stain with the different stains, right? They can clearly form some bonding patterns, darkly stained and light stained bands, right? And yeah, actually what happens, so in heterochromatin region they are highly condensed regions. I already told you they are highly condensed regions because the nucleosomes are very tightly packed to the each other. Okay, that means the H1 protein, the linker protein, the linker histone protein, okay, they are very close to each other. They can condensed very tightly, right? So euchromatin means they are some loosen up, they are widely distributed, they are very loose in arrangement. Just you are watching here in this particular slide, okay? The heterochromatin, the H1 proteins are very near to each other. They are compactly, tightly arranged to each other. They are compactly arranged, and in euchromatin region, the H1 proteins are so apart from each other. They are loosely arranged, right? So the first region is highly condensed region, right? The second region is some loosely arranged region. So as usually highly condensed region can take a dark stain, right? Loosely condensed, okay. So moderately condensed region can obviously take light intensity of staining, right? Right. So I would like to explain one more concept, karyotype. So karyotype. What is meant by karyotype? Karyotype nothing but, okay, the arrangement of all the chromosomes of a diploid cell. Arrangement of all the chromosomes in a diploid cell of an organism. Okay, right? Arrangement of all the chromosomes of a particular diploid cell of a species or of an organism is known as karyotype, right? All the chromosomes in a diploid cell can be arranged in a descending manner. Remember it? Descending manner means the larger chromosomes are first, the shorter chromosomes are in the last position. So, all the chromosomes present in a diploid cell of an organism can be arranged in a sequential manner, in a particular manner, that is in descending order. So, this can represent the karyotype, right? If we represent this arrangement in a diagrammatic schematic manner, it is known as ideogram. Okay, so according to the size, what we can by studying the karyotype, what we can get the information, we can get the information from karyotype study. How many chromosomes are there? What is the size of the chromosomes? What is the structure of the chromosomes? What is the morphology of the chromosomes? So uh, we can take some of the information of the chromosomes of a particular species or particular organism, right? So size, structure, morphology, length, and position of centromere, position of satellite, right? Secondary constriction, right? And moreover, shape of the chromosomes. So all the information we can get by studying the karyotype. Okay, so that is very very important. And moreover, the karyotype is two types. Okay, so asymmetric karyotype and symmetric karyotype. What is meant by asymmetric karyotype? Very simple. There are much variation in the chromosome size and structure. When we see much variations in the chromosome size and chromosome structure, and moreover less number of metacentric chromosomes. Metacentric chromosome nothing but the centromere position is middle of the chromosome. So less number of metacentric chromosomes and high differences in the chromosome length, chromosome size. So this is nothing but asymmetric chromosome. That means much differences among the chromosomes, right? So for example, ginkgo biloba, the karyotype of ginkgo biloba is best example for asymmetric karyotype, right? There are much variation in their size and structure. And moreover, asymmetric karyotypic organisms are highly developed. Okay, highly developed. But in plants, the highly developed family, Compositae, Asteraceae members have more asymmetric karyotypes. For example, genus Crepes. Okay, right? And moreover, asymmetric karyotypes can be seen in the plants which can produce zygomorphic flowers. The zygomorphic flower is a advanced feature. So that's why asymmetric karyotype gives information about the phylogeny. So the plants, the organisms which can show, which have asymmetric karyotype, nothing but they are highly evolved, right? The second type karyotype is symmetric karyotype, opposite to the asymmetric karyotype, nothing but there are no much variations, right? And all the chromosomes are almost all same. There are no differences. There are no much differences. And moreover, more number of chromosomes are metacentric chromosomes. Okay, so this type of karyotype is known as symmetric karyotype, right? All the chromosomes are more or less same. There are no much difference in their size and more number of metacentric chromosomes. For example, Pinus karyotype. Okay, so symmetric karyotype denotes that the organisms which have symmetric karyotype are, okay, not advanced, they are primitive, right? So by studying the karyotype, we can decide the phylogeny, we can understand the phylogeny of the organisms. Okay, so these are the uses, right? The size of the chromosomes, right? Size of the chromosomes means usually the plant chromosomes are bigger than the animal chromosomes, right? Usually plant chromosomes are much bigger than the animal chromosomes. Within the plants, monocot chromosomes are bigger than the dicot chromosomes. For example, trillium, okay, trillium chromosomes, trillium, the plant trillium has much larger chromosomes. They can measure about 30 millimicrons, right? Whereas some fungus chromosomes, okay, smallest chromosomes, many fungi have smallest chromosomes, they can measure about 0.25 millimicrons. Okay, animal chromosomes also, they are very smaller than the plant chromosomes, right? And moreover, number of chromosomes, the number and size of the chromosomes are very specific to a species, very specific to an organism. Number of chromosomes and size of the chromosome is very specific to species, right? Right? Number of chromosomes. Just you know, a haploid gamete have only one set of chromosomes. Haploid gametes. Haploid gametes have one basic set of chromosomes that is known as genome. You know, right? Genome is denoted by only capital N. N equals to 7 in Pisum sativum. That means the basic set of chromosomes in Pisum sativum is 7. Okay, N equals to 7. That means only one basic set, that is 7 chromosomes. In diploid Pisum, in diploid cell of Pisum sativum, there are two sets of chromosomes. There are 14 chromosomes, but they are in pairs. So that's why we can write 2n equals to 14. Total 14 chromosomes, they are in homologous state. They are in homologous state, n plus n state. That is why we can usually write 2n equals to 14. That means n equals to 7. So 7 is the basic set of chromosomes of Pisum sativum. The basic set is also known as genome. We can say that genome. In diploid organism, two genomes are there. In triploid organism, three basic sets or three genomes are there. Tetraploidy, four genomes. Okay. polyploidy, many genomes, many basic sets of chromosomes are there, right? So the number of chromosomes also very specific to the species or a particular organism, right? So size, shape, structure, morphology of chromosomes can be studied in the karyotype. If the karyotype is represented in a diagrammatic manner, it is known as ideogram. Okay, by studying the karyotype, we can come to know the phylogeny of a particular species, and we come to know whether it is advanced or it is a primitive species, right? So the karyotype, the study of chromosomes, will give much information, but much suitable stage for study of chromosomes to construct the karyotype, okay, to establish the ideogram is metaphase, is very suitable stage. Metaphase of the cell cycle, metaphase of the cell division is suitable for karyotype, suitable for chromosomes study. Okay, thank you one and all.